Welcome to this webinar on transforming cities of the future. When we say digital cities, we are really talking about smart cities. At Dell, we like to refer to that as digital cities. On this slide here, you see a picture of the modern city of Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Cities in the modern age play a very important role. And cities need a digital core, a central nervous system, or a foundation, a digital foundation, to deliver advanced services to their citizens and their residents to make cities safer, livable, more secure, more sustainable. So really, what is the definition of a smart city? A smart city is an urban area where local governments and municipalities use technology and data, and yes, increasingly AI, artificial intelligence, to deliver better services to their constituents. Thereby, the aim, of course, is to increase the safety, efficiency, and the overall operations of the city. In today's session, Manminder will give you some real examples of smart cities around the world that we have been involved in. And following that, John will give you some real use cases of the actual projects that we have been involved in when it comes to smart cities. Let's talk about our vision for digital cities. And what is our point of view from Dell Technologies for digital cities? As I said before, modern digital core or a modern foundation is required that scales up to become a system of systems for these modern cities of today. And there are many, many use cases and solutions that we're going to talk about. And you see some of them on the slides over here, like urban mobility, citizen services, green and sustainability, public safety and security. So the modern digital core is very important, and the digital core has to be open, scalable, agile, secure, and future-proof. And one of the leading solutions that we offer for this today from Dell is the Dell NativeEdge solution that we will also cover in today's session. Let me now play a short video for you to set the stage of what we are going to talk about today.
Throughout history, cities have nurtured both the best and worst of human nature. So what will life be like in the megacities of tomorrow? As populations grow, existing infrastructure will struggle to cope. Without action today, what does the future hold for tomorrow's city dwellers? Imagine Beijing smogs replicated around the world, Los Cabos' level of violent crime, or Mumbai's levels of traffic congestion. From power and sanitation to traffic management, from hospitals to police and fire departments, from government to revenue collection, hundreds of services determine the quality of life in our cities, and we're reaching a point where the interplay of independent, autonomous services is a critical constraint. As the city gets bigger, traffic congestion gets heavier, commutes get longer, and air pollution rises. The ambulance takes longer to reach the road traffic accident. The delay worsens the victim's prognosis. The hospital needs to devote more resources to the victim. And every year, the pressure gets worse. City services operating in silos eventually reach a point where demand overtakes the ability to supply. But imagine if city systems worked in harmony to deliver better outcomes. Global research predicts dramatic benefits. Up to 300 lives saved per year in a city of 5 million, 30 to 40% fewer crime incidents, up to 15% lower disease burden, 15 to 30 minutes shaved off the daily commute, a 10 to 15% drop in greenhouse gas emissions, and up to 35% faster emergency response times. By 2050, cities will be home to 6.7 billion people. To prepare for this growth, they need to break services free from silos. Until now, the digital capability to achieve genuinely interconnected smart city systems has been out of reach. Today, the essential elements are all in place. Modern networks with software-defined data centers, hyper-converged, intelligent infrastructure, 5G, edge computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, smart sensors. Together, these technologies form a central nervous system that digitally ties disparate city departments, services, and infrastructure into an agile, cohesive, connected mechanism, creating an intelligent system of systems that leverages the true value of data to drive human progress.
Today I'll be sharing about all the things about urbanizations, with challenges which we are seeing, and the technologies which are there to solve these challenges. Now, there are different paths to this urban transformation, and on that journey, it's not one approach which applies to the challenges. There are different approaches, and to achieve this, there's a shared vision to achieve the end goal. The end goal of enhanced quality of life of citizens, to have a sustainable future as well as a secure environment. To achieve all of this through a connected infrastructure, which will be driving the enhanced quality of life. When we look at the different cities which have achieved or taken paths to have a transformed urbanization aspect, some of the examples which I'll be talking about, firstly about Toyota Woven City, which is in the foothills of Mount Fuji in Japan. Now, this was initially a manufacturing site for Toyota cars from 1967 all the way till 2020. Now, what Toyota decided was to set up a testbed area for understanding how mobility would work and enhance the citizens' lives. They identified 3 areas. Firstly, mobility of people. Secondly, mobility of goods. And lastly, mobility of information. So when you think of it, all these 3 things interact very strongly with each other, which will drive the quality of life for people, as well as sustainability and various aspects of urbanization. And to do that, you need an area where you can live together and test. So innovators as well as residents would be living in that newly built city where the vision is to have testbed for the mobility aspect and driving the sustainability goals, etc. So first area where they'll be testing will be with hydrogen being the energy provider. Second aspect is to have autonomous vehicles for goods, for people, and all this will get tested and feedback given back to the innovators to be able to look at the results and then feedback and return back with new innovation. They will also have a data platform which will bring all the data together, a city data platform connected to the sensors and bringing the data together. Moving on to the second example of such urbanization aspects and the challenges seen is for Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the city of entertainment, a capital of entertainment where there's a resident population of between 2 to 3 million, while a huge influx of visitors annually, about 40 plus million. So when you have so many visitors, there's huge challenges built around the city itself. And Vegas has decided to achieve a goal of smart Vegas by 2025. And to enable that, the aspect of using communications, fiber throughout the city itself, and also test bedding things such as private 5G, sensors, AI, ML, etc., all connected again through a data platform, which will bring all of this data together to help the city being secure, safer, as well as enhancing different services for citizens such as education, healthcare, etc. So these are a couple of examples. First one being a city which is being through a vision of enhanced mobility, and it's a greenfield, while the second one is a brownfield. Moving on, another couple of examples in different parts of the world. Neom, where we have heard a lot about the city, new city being built, a 110-mile long city where the idea is the residents can connect to each other anywhere within 20 minutes, having rapid transport systems to allow such a fast connectivity. On the other hand, more recently we have heard that they have scaled down this development to about 1.5 miles only. So time will tell what they build out. But again, here the whole approach of having a cognitive city, having data platforms which bring all of this data together, enhancing the lives of citizens, making it sustainable. These are the visions which have been set out to build this greenfield city. Another example is Singapore, where I come from. Singapore set itself a goal to be a smart nation itself. It was announced in 2014. Now, what the 3 pillars which they set up as driving the smart nation concept was to have a digital society, a digital government, as well a digital infrastructure. All of this working together to enhance the lives of the citizens. Singapore is also a brownfield example of such a development. Now, the different challenges which come with brownfield development is that you already have a living, working environment, and you now want to digitize all of this environment. There are different challenges because the infrastructure itself, whether it's digital or physical, it has a different life cycle and needs to be connected. Also, Singapore took initially a first step through a digital approach where whole of the digital infrastructure was built up and used technology to address that to be a smart nation. On the other hand, over time, they did realize that it needed people's involvement into being a smart nation. And the second version of this was to get the residents involved, getting feedback from residents and seeing what will help them to get better livability aspects of the smart nation. And one of the classic examples is there were a few hundred touch points which the residents would have with the people, with the government itself. So online applications, etc., which were available, there were a few hundred such touch points. They took an approach to move on to a mobile app, which reduced all these touch points to one single app and reduced them where only the necessary touch points were provided. And that made it much easier for residents to interact with the government. So this is one classic example of different approaches, different journeys which cities have taken to achieve smart city concepts. Finally, if you look at all of these approaches, you have a need of next generation or urban infrastructure to drive it. And that is through connected infrastructure, bringing all the data together. And when you bring the data together, you can drive the intelligence on top of data. And that allows multiple domain systems to work together. And in Dell, we are enabling these cities of tomorrow through different capabilities, right from edge to the core, and having a concept of systems, and bringing the data from the edge all the way to the core data centers. And for that, to give deeper engagement into what we are doing at Edge, I'll hand over to John.
Great. Thanks, Maminder. I really appreciate the introduction. And now that you all have heard a little bit about what's happening with cities across the world and what we're doing as far as helping cities engage in that, we're going to introduce you to one of the latest tools that Dell Technologies has brought to the market. This mechanism called Dell NativeEdge is really a platform that's intended to help accelerate the way that cities can deliver their applications and achieve different outcomes that are proposed across a wide variety of different departments, districts, and systems to help simplify how we have done IT in the past into a delivery system that secures the edge and endpoints, but at the same time really drives home some of these other aspects. Simplified deployment, we do this through zero-touch onboarding. And as we look towards what that means, it means really deploying any device across the city into this network and bringing those devices into a framework that talks back into the headquarters so that we can easily deploy a variety of different types of applications that address different needs. And we go to the next phase, we look at the second tenet, which is really that optimization and that scalability. And what this means is we can take really an application or a particular function that's already been proven and scale it rapidly without the necessity to really have individual pieces go into place. Individual users and or support personnel really set these up. We want to be able to turn on a single intersection, prove it out, and then deploy it across the entire city, as an example. Similarly, we could look at buildings and some other facets of it, but the intent here is regardless of the type of application, regardless of the need, we're able to really scale at ease. And the last tenet, which is one of the most important ones now that security is becoming an issue, is that we look towards zero trust onboarding. So if we can secure those edge devices in a manner in which doesn't allow people to plug in USB devices, hack into those devices in the field, and it only accepts data or applications that are delivered from our control center, then we've got a really new model that simplifies the way that cities address their problems. It optimizes by scaling and manageability of their entire network of assets. And then lastly, each of those assets are secured by default. It's organically set up in place to operate. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into what this means for you as a city leader or administrator. Things to look out for. Obviously, we can connect these devices quite simply, have them phone home in essence, and become onboarded so that we know what's happening with the device at the edge as far as it's functioning, it's operating within normal parameters, and then deploy to that through our Edge orchestrator, an application that will, in effect, deliver a particular workload. It could be smart parking, it could be building management systems or sustainable buildings, or it could be on the intersection side. A lot of different varieties of almost any use case that cities face can be addressed through this secure mechanism. And then lastly, that zero trust security aspect means that the devices are hardened. They can't be tampered with or addressed in any way in the field, hacked into via Wi-Fi, plugged in through USB devices. This security ensures that as each of these devices are kind of deployed, that the management of them, the function of those, and actually it becomes easy to deploy kind of what we call our blueprintable solutions. Now, what this means for you as city leaders and administrators is really the centralized management across all of the applications, across all of the devices, is now optimized at the edge. We can scale easily from there and free up time from day 0 and day 2 operations and beyond. Things in the past that took many, many months to achieve can now be done in a fraction of that time, really driving these outcomes to be delivered a lot faster and more efficiently and more securely. And lastly, any application that you choose, whether it be your IoT framework or OT type systems, or even weather sensors gathering data from other systems that are generating a lot of information that will help cities make better decisions about how they address this. All of these come together in an easy manner to really deploy those, whether you have your applications in a virtual machine or if they're containerized through an existing environments. So we really plan this to work in concert with existing departments, but do it in a way that can securely manage the digital transformative evolution that's occurring. And we'll see this and talk a little bit more about it as we look into use cases. So when I look at and talk to this centralized deployment, imagine that we've now got a mechanism similar to the way app stores work to deliver for, a variety of different types of phones, whether they be Android or whether they be Apple. We provide a secure mechanism for these applications to be delivered and distributed along that network to these devices, but done so in a way that still protects the integrity of the applications and the security. And then as they're addressed, whether it's feature enhancements or different situations arise as far as expanding the functionality or doing more with each of these devices, you can deploy one or multiple applications through this network to those edge endpoints. And they could come in the form of gateways, our Optiplex devices, our servers. So regardless of what that means to you, it could be video analytics, and it could be something as rudimentary as integrating with IoT systems that are operating in a smaller one of our gateway footprints. We want to make it easy for you to distribute applications that address any workload or any need that a city has. Now, we talked more on a little bit specific on the security aspect because this is a key value proposition, a key value advantage that Dell Technologies has brought into the mix. The zero trust security on the devices really mean that from the deployment point, they're really implemented and executed with user trust and multi-factor authentication. The device has device trust built into that, and the network trust is already kind of in place. As they talk to, they become onboarded and connected through our Edge orchestrator to any Edge device as an endpoint. Also receiving and bringing into that the health checks and monitoring and the telemetry and the status of other analytics that are related to the performance and functionality of each of these devices deployed in the field. The data itself will be shipped out in applications and then generated at the edge, but they know that it's now brought back in from a trusted source across a trusted network so that that data can then further be analyzed, delivering the results that our customers are seeking to deliver as outcomes and refinements of city operations. The application level, as well as automation and orchestration, further enhance our capabilities of really delivering a new tool, as I mentioned, or mechanism that make it easier for city leaders and administrators to strategically plan the evolution of how those cities change from where they're at to where they want to go, and do it in a fraction of the time in a secure manner. So as I move forward and progress with the next set of kind of slides, I want to dive deeper into kind of some specific use cases and exactly how this would function. So when we look towards what we would say is urban mobility and how we can reimagine and re-envision what's happening, we've got fiber delivered all throughout a city, but there are areas that may be hard to get and add difficulties. We want to be able to connect at the edge devices that monitor traffic flows, traffic congestion patterns, and really understand what's happening throughout the city, volumes of traffic during different times of day. And we want to further be able to integrate that with other types of systems that go beyond just video analytics, and counting cars to determine color, make, and model. We also would like to correlate that data with weather systems that are plugged in at those locations to determine greenhouse gas emissions based on volumes of cars. If we decide that we're going to convert an entire mobile economy to electric vehicles, is there really a change in delta on what that means to the pollution, given that not all vehicles will transform? And as this occurs over time, we can really understand the effectiveness of this transformation. Is it worth the city investing in the resources to do this in a faster pace? Or should they do it in a slower pace that's more aligned to the citizenship and the way that the constituents expect to deliver these services? In either case, having a secure asset at the edge and being able to control that and understand that you've done the right thing at an intersection and tested the right features out, you can then take and blueprint that configuration and distribute it across the entire network of roads and intersections within a city's limits. And you can see from the map below that there's a lot of different information that could be ascertained from understanding this. When we look at a further use case within this mobility sector, it could be understanding the number of vehicles on the roads that have accurate nameplates, right? Understanding which of those vehicles actually have valid registration or which are expired. And this gives the city the capability to alert what the response should be, maybe give a notification that they should renew it. And also it's an indicator if there's a vehicle that doesn't match, the nameplate doesn't match the color, make, and model. And that would be indicative of potentially, a stolen vehicle or a stolen nameplate that's been put on a different vehicle. In either case, understanding and realizing that data and analyzing it at the edge in a secure way brings that data centrally back into headquarters so that they can respond and actually understand those metrics and the trends that are formulating. So another example, a second example that we're going to look at is some of the critical infrastructure that city leaders look to towards optimization and modernization. So we'll talk about transforming a wastewater treatment site and a center. When we look at today's technologies, we're finding that there's a lot of legacy technologies, legacy OT systems that really need to be replaced and refreshed so that they're modern, they're digitized, and we can do this with NativeEdge in mind as a mechanism to securely deploy the hardware, optimize the existing controllers that are in place at these sites, and bring that together through a consolidated command center that's site level based. Now from this, we can start to further optimize their power consumption patterns. We can enhance that by adding solar panels to areas and create energy, or take some of the waste and capture methane from that to power plants to further reduce the demand on the grid. These optimizations then all encompassed can be developed into a configured blueprint that then is taken and repeated across the entire city's network of wastewater treatment plants. And as you can imagine, this really applies to other aspects of critical infrastructure that go well above and beyond wastewater treatment. Solid waste management, the transportation systems, whether they be metro and trains, and even the bus routes that are in place across the city. Really developing, evolving a secure best practice and delivery system allows these outcomes be delivered back into the city so that leaders can actually turn their words into actionable, positive results for the city's constituents. Now, my next example will look a little bit deeper onto buildings and what this means beyond the building. Typical buildings today have security departments that are disparate from the actual building. They've got building controls, fire systems, HVAC systems, a lot of different devices that are already happening and monitored by the maintenance of these buildings themselves. But from a perspective of optimizing the building and coming up with a platform that can take into account and ingest all of the data, we can correlate consumption patterns of energy and water, waste generation by occupancy levels, right? Further integrating that with security means we can also create a single system that brings about this homogeneous functioning of a single building. And again, as we prove this technology out and we bring about this system compatibility, building systems like HVACs or lift management, we become predictably maintainable, optimized to support the least amount of downtime and the highest levels of efficiencies within a building. Once this is established, again, a configurable blueprint then can be spread across an entire set of buildings. So imagine that we go all fire stations within a city or all hospitals within a city with this type of solution that's deployed and secured. City leaders can come in and understand department by department what their sustainability metrics look like over the city and or other efficiencies that can further enhance this. Again, you start with a building, you can expand to a campus or a department level, and then go even beyond that at a citywide pace. So city leaders really can understand what's happening within the, that entire ecosystem from their carbon footprint perspective. A little known fact is that buildings consume the majority of energy as the largest consumption within a city. If we can tackle an efficient building, we can bring about, using NativeEdge, a technology that really interoperates the way cities function, even at the base city level, and limiting and reducing the amount of demand they take back from city resources, whether that's recycling on site, reclaiming wastewater, or even just having less energy consumed or pulled from the grid. If you do it at one building and scale that across the city, you bring about these capabilities that allow city leaders to really provide more services and support to their constituents. Now, when we talked a little bit about using NativeEdge to do this, securely deploying it, we've got two aspects. One of them is, what does it mean if you weren't using NativeEdge, and what does it mean if you are using NativeEdge? Without NativeEdge, your security has a risk of being compromised. It takes longer to deliver these types of functions and application service integration to the market because each site has to be done manually. There'll be a lot of folks out servicing each site, bringing about the systems together. And each of the systems still will be operating in a siloed capacity. This creates a complexity within the lifecycle management side of that. Now, as we look towards NativeEdge as a mechanism, the first step is we're bringing in a secure device. We're bringing in a platform application that can actually be delivered to that device, pull and do the integration at the edge, and providing, again, usable metrics with zero-touch provisioning. It reduces the man-hours that it takes to actually set up these systems and establish what that blueprint or framework looks like, and increases the ability to then optimize and scale that across one building, multiple buildings or departments, or across the entire city. And then again, you can even scale that further from cities to counties to even state level or entire nations. So we simplify that lifecycle management. We reduce the time to market by bringing a faster time to value. And all of this is done by a measure of application orchestration and how we improve upon infrastructure management. This brings me to one of my last slides, which is the way forward. How do we look towards a city to really accomplish these goals? Cities with their large needs have a number of different requirements. What we want to do is really take a specific item that may be cataloged within a city's master plan or strategic plan forward, and then see how we can pilot a solution that demonstrates what the benefits would be back out to the city for investing in that. Once we've proven that technology, we show them how easy it is to scale with not only what we have, but with NativeEdge. So we want to encourage you to understand what NativeEdge is and how it can help deliver these solutions more securely and improve your lifecycle management of your fleet and applications. Leverage our existing we have a very extensive ecosystem network of partners that have already been proven and validated on the NativeEdge and set up as blueprints. So it's in essence an application catalog. And lastly, let's schedule a customized briefing and come talk to Dell. We'll plan a pilot with you and demonstrate how you can take that pilot, proving the metrics that need to be generated and scaling that all the way out to meet the needs of the city. In essence, city leaders, through their strategic plan, now have an easier mechanism to deliver outcomes and solutions to their constituents. Thank you for your time today.